reminded me of a time in my life when I went through one of those type seasons. I call it a season of clarity because I was blind for a year and it taught me a lesson. And when I was blind, I had to wear these glasses. I don't know why I kept them. I'm starting to clean out the closet, but these glasses. And you would see a lot of elderly people with these type glasses after they had ophthalmology appointments to keep the light out of their eyes. And my season of clarity actually started when I was about 15 years old. I was so happy that I had gotten a car and I learned how to drive. I was the first one in my family to do this, my nuclear family. My mother didn't even know how to drive. And I had sisters and brothers. I was so excited about the skill and the independence that it gave me. And I used it to provide service to not only my nuclear family, but my extended family. So I would go from the north side of town to the east side of town, stopping to pick up medications for my grandmother. Then I drop my mom off at work, go to school, and then pick her up. And then I would do errands in between for my brothers and sisters, their kids. So those quick trips became extended as I got more and more tasks. And I would be doing something as simple as taking someone to the grocery store, but then I would end up doing the grocery shopping and loading all the groceries in the trunk, taking them out, driving them home, taking them out of the trunk, taking them in the groceries in the house, cleaning out the refrigerator, and then loading up the groceries. And I noticed that people were becoming meaner to me. They started treating me like a servant. And if I asked for anything, if I, can you give me $5 for gas? They would think that I was charging them a fee for services, but I just needed the gas money. Or if my car broke down and I would ask for help, I get responses like, well, it's not my car. Why am I paying? There were times where if someone said, pick me up at 2, I would be sitting in my car till 2:15 or 2:30 and, want to come in the house, but was told, oh, just sit in the car. And then I started noticing that I wasn't even invited to family functions. I wasn't invited to birthday parties, family dinners, or even weddings. And I'd hear about these events from, my community just in passing. And it made me feel really bad. So I started thinking, well, am I doing something wrong? And I had this rumination about, well, maybe I can do it differently. Um, you know, Talk to them nicely, just anything. And it just started to ruminate in my mind, in my mind, in my mind. And I decided that I would just start journaling to get it out because I was always second guessing myself, making myself crazy. Why don't they like me? I always had those questions. And so I started journaling and then I started praying to God. I said, I need clarity. I want to know who are the family and friends that have my best interests at heart so that I don't feel used. I wanted to know the people that I could trust. So this went along with me, and I eventually started my career, but I always carried that burden of being service to family and friends. So wherever I was, I'd call home or send money, and it just continued. And the feelings continued until one day I was working at a hospital in New York doing my thing. I was working like 8 hours a day and 4 or 5 hours in the evening in my office. During the day, I was working under these very hot fluorescent lights. And in the evening, I was working under these fluorescent lights as well as typing papers for medical journals that I wanted to have published. And my eyes, I had a lot of pain. And they became dry and itchy. So I contacted an ophthalmologist that I knew, and he gave me an eye drop. And the eye drops made my eyes turn purple. The skin was purple. and just crusty. And it was a lot of pain. So I went home and I used a warm compress on my eyes, but they didn't get better. They felt more irritated and more sore. And just in case you don't know about the eyes, they're actually an outpouching of the brain, and they have over 200 receptors that affect your, not only your sight, but your proprioception. It allows your body to feel how it's positioned in space. And so without my vision and being in New York, I couldn't take the train, and it was even unsafe for me to walk down the street. I could get mugged. So I called home for family in Ohio to come get me. And I was very afraid. You know, I'm vulnerable, basically incapacitated. And I said, okay, I need help. And they agreed to come get me. But through my fear, I started hearing this voice that said, listen and you will see. Listen and you will see. Listen and you will see. So I had my black glasses on and I returned to Ohio. And when I left New York, I had to give up my apartment and all of my belongings. I was able to take my clothes, some journals, and things like that. And my cousin said, I remember hearing my cousin, he said, you can stay with me, but only for a month, and then you have to go. And I'm thinking, well, you know, where am I going to go? And then I heard other people asking, well, how much money does she have? Maybe we can sell her car. And I had a friend that invited me to stay with her, and I felt very fortunate. And I went there. But when I got there, she told me, you're coming in, working your way out. And everything that I ate, she wrote it down and she put a dollar amount next to it. The days that I stayed at her place, she wrote it down and she put a dollar amount next to it. Any utilities that I consume, she wrote it down. She put a dollar amount next to it. And while I was incapacitated, she helped herself to my clothes, my makeup, and all of those things. If I was having a conversation on the phone, she'd write it down in a notebook. And I said to myself, I'm getting the hell up out of Ohio, right? And I started making a plan for myself. I knew the chief of medicine at The Ohio State University, and he told me about a $5 medication that you could get generic. And I started taking it, and my eyes started to heal. But I started thinking, this is a $5 medication, God. This had to be about me learning a lesson, me finally being able to focus what was important. And so it took a year, but I got my vision back and I started looking through my things, and I came across those journals and I started reading those entries where I was confused about how people were treating me. And I was no longer confused. It was clear to me that some people just don't like you. That ruminating mindset, that constantly wondering why they didn't like me, was the glue on my wings. It stopped me from totally flying. It stopped me from totally being free. And that idea of being a service to people, even if they don't like you, no more. I decided that I needed to take responsibility for my life so that I could move on, no matter how much it hurt. I did the mind work to undo the negativity that I had consumed. And I decided I didn't want to be mad at them and carry those emotions with me. That clarity provided me direction and even transformation. So I say to you, if you're in a relationship, you have a job, a health crisis, or a rut, ask yourself, what's the goo on your wings that's stopping you and holding you back? What will it take for you to get the personal and professional development that you need? What will it take for you to get into a circle of people who really appreciate you and are happy to see you? Because one of my mottos is, I only go places where people are happy to see me. And it seems so simple, but I swear by it. So that's my message for today. Right now, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Maria Soprano. I'm going to let Maria say all the fantastic things that she has to say about herself. Go right ahead, Maria.
Thank you, Dr. Camille. I appreciate you. Hi, everyone. I'm Maria with Karma Free Living. I am a holistic wellness and mindset coach, a transformational speaker, and the creator of Karma Sea Gems, a female dummy line that I actually created. But let me tell you, it blows me away that I am here as the vegan gypsy soul, helping people on their journey, developing positive mindsets and learn how to heal their bodies and overcome and find the best versions of themselves. It blows me away that I am an international speaker, speaking on stages, letting my voice be heard and myself be seen. It blows me away that I am alive today, living this life that I am living. Because you see, my life wasn't always like this. I spent the majority of my life in bed, struggling to put that one foot down on the floor. My mind and my body both failing me. I felt depleted in light. I felt defeated by life. And I felt disgusted with myself. I was unaware of all the foods that I was putting in my body, just taking things as they came, being unaware of the things that was putting in my mind and in my body. I was consuming both things on television and around me. And it wasn't until I was in the hospital for 2 weeks on 5 different antibiotic IV drops that my life began to change. I remember my doctor came in. I said, come on, doc, tell me I'm getting out of here. I'm in here 2 weeks now. And I just saw the look in my doctor's eyes. And his eyes start to tear up. And for the first time, I realized I might not be making it out of here alive. And I asked him, I said, Doc, am I going to make it out of here? He couldn't even speak. He just looked over to the side. The doctor could not look me in the eyes. So I made it back out of that hospital. I stayed in there another week and a half, but I made it out alive. And that's when I was introduced to the vegan lifestyle. And let me tell you, there was a lot of resistance. I was not ready to jump into that pool. I put my toe in, wanted to try it out a little bit, see what I felt about it before I jumped in there. But once I jumped into that pool, there was no way I wanted to come back out. I was so amazed at watching dis-ease after dis-ease just naturally one by one leave my body. The energy my body felt, I felt alive again. I was alive. My mind started to clear up. That depression lifted, that anxiety lifted. It all just seemed to just go away with this lifestyle change. And I say lifestyle change because it's more than what we just put in our body. It's what we consume around us as well. Once I let go of that resistance and I truly just allowed myself to embody this new version of me, I just watched my entire life just start to shift. See, I wasn't aware of all the damage that those foods that we call normal foods was doing to me until then. And once I went vegan, I started detoxing my body. I started getting my gut health going. And I came to life. I became the vegan gypsy soul that you see before you now, living my life. And that inspired me to create these challenges, these courses, these retreats, even my Karma Sea Gems, so that I could help others so they don't have to take that 7 years it took me to get here. Now I give everybody the roadmap so they can get there much quicker. It's like a GPS there. This way, others can free themselves of those limiting beliefs and those self-doubt that are holding them back. so they can free themselves of these conventional remedies and get themselves out of bed each day and enjoy their life. And so that they can free themselves of that fear that is holding them back from actually living their life. There was a point in my life where I let fear hold me back. People see me now and they see this free spirit that loves life, this positive energy. If you knew me 7, 8 years ago, that's not who you knew before. I was that person stuck in fear. For 5 years, I was planning to move, had to have the money in my bank. I had to have everything lined up, and things never lined up. But let me tell you, when your life is almost taken away from you, you're not going to take that next day for granted. So that's where the vegan gypsy soul came about. I literally packed up my car with it in it, and on top of it is what came with me. And I went with faith. I had complete faith and trust in the universe that it would provide for me, and it has ever since. And it's funny that we talk about butterflies right now, because I was that caterpillar. But you see, the caterpillar must die to emerge into that butterfly. It doesn't just transform, it must die. That version of you must die so you can blossom into the magnificent, beautiful butterfly that you are meant to be. And we are all meant to be these butterflies in this world. So I started my life journey with simple things: detoxing, building up that gut health. This cleared up everything for me, and I was able to get off of those medications. Of course, don't just do it without a doctor. You've got Dr. Camille here, but we don't just do it without a doctor's a vision or supervision. But it helped me to start to do things like last year I did a coast to coast road trip. I literally got in my car, I did a coast to coast road trip, ended up in California, and I started my life over again. These are the things that I do now. And I now have created challenges to help people learn the roadmap that it took me. Like I was saying, the detoxes, the gut health, how to make that transformation easier. Because let me tell you, I'm not going to even pretend that it was easy for me. I had nobody coaching me through it. I had nobody helping me. So I fell down plenty of times. But with the tools that I share with others, they could do this in a much shorter time frame. They don't have to spend 7 years learning what I learn now. So I have my 30-day vegan made is easy challenge, where I hold your hand through the challenge. I give you weekly challenges to make you go through. This way you transition much easier into it. We've got tons of recipes in there. Oh my God, there's so much. A few people that are actually on this live right now actually were in the challenge. And I love it because they came into it and say, Maria, I'm not going vegan. Sure enough, 2 weeks later, they were like, wow, I feel incredible. My skin's better. My body's in less inflammation. This is what happens when we put the right foods in our body and the right thoughts in our mind, because we have to take care of mind, body, and spirit. It's not just one or the other. And I'm also doing retreats now, vegan retreats, where you would have luxury matching with energy, because we are taking care of mind, body, and spirit. So many people focus on just one and not the other two. But when one is out of balance, all three are. And that's where my coaching comes in. That's where my challenges come in. My retreats is to help you better align and balance your mind, your body, and spirit. But it starts with especially with me, it started with my gut health and the vegan lifestyle. It literally saved my life. And I love it because the more I'm on this journey, the more people come to me and say, I had cancer and it went away with this lifestyle. I had fibromyalgia and it went away with this lifestyle. Our bodies are meant to heal. Our mind is meant to heal. The question is on what you're putting in it. So that's where I come in. I want to thank everybody for their time. Thank you for this platform, Camille. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Maria. I appreciate your enthusiasm. Do you have time for a couple quick questions if anybody has any questions? Anyone have any questions for Maria? Feel free to unmute yourself. No. So I'll ask you. So if
I have a quick question for Maria.
Okay, perfect. Yvette?
Maria, what is, first of all, thank you. Thank you for the time. What would you say was the greatest obstacle that people were saying is the reason why they were unwilling to go vegan?
Thinking about all the things you're going to give up. Your mind is so set on, your mind does not like change. It doesn't like change. So it will resist your resentment. I'm Italian. I'm not giving up my mom's lasagna. I'm not giving up meatballs. I'm not giving up cheese. I can never. And the funniest thing is that most vegans have always said, I can never. Me, I could never give up lasagna. I could never give up cheese. I could never give up salmon. Those were my personal I can nevers. And then when you start to realize that you have substitutes that, no, they're not exactly the same, but it's a different way of eating. And when you see how incredible you feel and how delicious the foods actually are, Jyoti, who's going to be on here as well, she was in my challenge and she could tell you, attest to the recipes that I share. You are not giving up anything. It is just your mind keeping you in what you know as the norm. And that's what keeps most people stuck, is they're too afraid to change. But it's always that I can never, which most people resist on.
So Maria, you're from an Italian family. How's your family feel about vegan food?
My dad, he's the funniest guy, because if I say the word vegan, no, I can't touch it. It's vegan. It's vegetables. Okay, I got you. It's good. It's delicious. I was just home for the past 3 weeks. I visited my family. And when I got there and I started using the word vegan, nobody wanted to touch my food. When I said it was vegetables, they all tried it. And let me tell you, I do my meal prep every single week. My meal prep was gone because everybody was eating my food. My cookies that I made, the different dishes that I made was gone. My family, who is, I cannot touch vegan, loved it. And now that I'm back home in California, they're still using my vegan dishes and other ones as well. So I've ended up inspiring them to use their own vegan dishes.
Thank you. Does someone else have a question?
I have a question.
Go right ahead.
So Maria, wow, I admire you for going vegan. I feel like I have tried it. My daughter and I have tried it together. And after about 3 days, we kind of failed and reverted back to our old ways. So I think my question for you is, what recipes did you use? Like, what would be an entree, after I think a few vegetables, we just kind of got stuck. I tried like the food like crumbles that are supposed to resemble ground beef. I've tried like the frozen Chick-fil-A's that are supposed to resemble chicken. So what do you use?
So let me start by saying, though, I failed the first time I went vegan, too, because I had no idea what to eat. That's why I created the 30-day vegan made easy challenge, because you don't know what to eat when you first go vegan. It's a whole new world out there. So I was like salad, and I'm like, what am I going to do with this tofu block of this nothingness? I actually now recreate all of my favorite dishes just vegan. So when I share in my 30-day challenge, I have everything from, I haven't shared it in this one, but I have lasagna dishes. I have baked spaghetti squash, which is, oh my God, creamy baked spaghetti squash with this cauliflower cheesy sauce that is to die for. What other entrees do I have? Pretty much anything that I ate before going vegan, I have vegan versions of it. There's another thing that I do, which TVP, which is textured vegetable protein. And I make that with baked beans, pineapple, red pepper, and some onions. Oh my God, it is incredible, sweet and savory. So there are so many incredible dishes. Those are two of my favorites that I do, but there's such a long list of it. And one of the things that I do in my 30-day vegan made easy challenge is I share tons and tons of recipes. And I also like to keep them, like I have my soy-free ones for people who can't have soy. I have my sweet tooth ones for people who have sweet tooth. So this way it makes the transition much easier when you have options that are vegan, because if you don't have options that are vegan on hand at all times, you're going to fail, especially as you're transitioning.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Regina, did you have a question? I think someone said, what if you don't like to cook?
So Fran, who was in our 30-day challenge, loves to cook, but did not want to cook. And she ended up doing those already made, like, I forgot which one she used. I could find out for you and put it in the chat when this is posted. But that's what she did. It was a vegan, already made. Everything was whole foods vegan. Make sure it's whole foods vegan, because a lot of this other stuff that's already pre-made is processed. And the reason why I promote whole foods vegan is because if you're vegan, French fries is vegan, potato chips is vegan. Even Oreos is vegan. So the word vegan does not mean healthy. It's whole foods vegan that's healthy. So you can already do like whole foods a vegan meal prep. You're welcome, Regina. Sakara, I'm not familiar with that. Okay, good. Thank you for sharing that. There was a comment that Sakara was one that she used.
I saw that. Are there any more questions? Thank you, Maria, for sharing your vegan lifestyle and your journey all across the country and your enthusiasm. Really appreciated hearing it. Let's give a round of applause or drop hearts in the chat for Maria. And we'll see you later.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
So the next person I want to introduce is Adrianne Murchison.
Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. Happy daylight savings time.
Yes.
I am Adrianne Murchison. Professionally, I am a journalist. January marked 30 years for me in the business. I am a news reporter. Did I say 30 years? 20 years.
Yes.
20 years. I am a news reporter and a writer. And separately, I produce a podcast called Let's Start Healing. It is a spiritual-based podcast where I talk to people about their spirituality and their relationship with God and how they weave that into their everyday life. People know me as someone who cares about my fellow man, my family, my relationship, and God. For as long as I can remember, I have wanted to know God as much as possible. I am a spiritualist. And for me, spirituality simply means our relationship with God or our higher power. You see, I believe that we are here to know that God, our higher power, the universe, whoever we call that divine entity, is love. And I believe that we are here to know that we are love. I believe that we are here to serve each other. And what I would like to do is share with you how I shifted from this belief into a knowing for myself through a spiritual study in a book called A Course in Miracles. And I'm not here to promote the book. I am here to speak to you about some of the universal themes of this book that really transcend. The bottom line of the book is that we are love and that God is love and that God is here for us no matter what we go through. That when we do something that we deem as wrong, when we are in our darkest times, when we yell at our neighbor, when we kill our neighbor, that God loves us. And it is simply a matter of we forgot who we are because we are love. And so I discovered A Course in Miracles several years ago. It is really a central part of my life, and it's really saved me. It's the core of me, a central part of me. And it has taught me to love myself, to trust myself, to trust God, to allow my brother, my fellow man, to have their own journey, to not try to control another person, but to allow them to have their own journey in their own life. And it has brought me through tremendous pain and loss into a space of healing. A couple of years, about a year before my mother passed, I had started reading A Course in Miracles. And then when she passed, my father had already passed. My brothers were still here, but they've now passed. But when my mom passed, I said, the only way I could go on was if I tried to live my life as authentically as I possibly could, because I thought living an authentic life could bring me to happy. And A Course in Miracles is that path for me. About 2 years after she was gone, I was still grieving her, and I was talking to a friend, and I realized that I wasn't on that path of authenticity yet. I was talking to this friend from childhood who we had lost touch and we were reconnecting, and she was going through a divorce, but she was also going through a renewal. She was rediscovering herself. She had taken up running. She was starting to play the piano again, which she had done when we were growing up. And at this point in her life, aside from her profession, she was teaching piano lessons. She was wearing dreads. I was like, oh my gosh, this is just so awesome. And she says, so tell me what's going on with you. And I realized that I was not on that authentic, healthy path yet. I was not living a healthy life. I was in an unhealthy relationship. But I couldn't say this because I didn't even have the authenticity to say that. But when we hung up, I made the commitment to get on that path and be committed. And I started attending a Course in Miracles discussion group. And I vowed that when I would attend this group, which was every Sunday morning, that I would show up in authenticity. I would be honest about whatever I shared. But I have to tell you that my very first day, I learned a life lesson. I show up and it's a circle of people, about 12 people, black, white, young, older, from all different backgrounds. And I sit down and I'm looking at someone, a man, Rick. And Rick, he was white. He had a long grayish white beard. He's sort of husky. And I immediately said to myself, he doesn't look like he likes black people. This is what I said to myself. And then he talked. And when he started talking, he lifted me up out of myself. He was so deep, and he was speaking to his spirit and his connection to God and how he was interpreting what we were reading. And it was such a lesson to me because this circle of us, of people from all different faiths, all different backgrounds, what I learned, we were all in vulnerability. And there were people, they could have been traditional Christian, Muslim, they could have been atheist. Some people grew up in a house where you couldn't say Jesus, all different backgrounds. But we all bonded through our vulnerability. And I learned that beneath every faith, the truth of every faith is love. Because God is love, that divine power, whatever we give name to, that is love. So several years after I'm into A Course in Miracles, I was journaling to my mother. It was something I did for so long after she left. And I want to share something that I said to her in my journal. I was telling her how much I missed her. And then I said, over and over in A Course in Miracles, it speaks to who I really am and God's absolute love and continuous love. Yet I can forget this during the course of my day and life. And the beauty of God, the book says, is that it doesn't matter if I forget or what I do. His love is always there, always has been, and always will be. And so I'd like to just share some of the tools that I have learned through this study. And one of them is that this book isn't the be all and end all. It's just the beginning. And that if there's ever a time where I need to be lifted up or I need to remember who I am, yes, I have this book as a tool, but there are other tools for me. And that's what I invite you to do, is to know what resonates for you. I might turn to YouTube and watch Wayne Dyer or Abraham Hicks or Muji or a number of other names that came up in discussions, spiritual discussions with my friends. I learned to be willing to give God a little bit of willingness, to make room for that higher power, for the miracle. Because when we think of the kingdom of God or heaven, that space where that divine energy is, I learned that we all can access this right here by just having a willingness. I learned that God is with us and for us no matter what. I said earlier that my fellow man means so much to me. Well, one of the hardest aspects of this study for me has been to love my brother, because I might love this fellow man, but that fellow man I might feel some kind of way about. So I want to share with you something from the book, just a one-line prayer. It's, I would see you as my friend, that I may remember you are part of me and come to know myself. I'm going to say that one more time. My mouth is so dry. Let me just take a little bit of water so I can get this out. So bear with me. This is from a lesson in the book called Love Has No Grievances. And it says, I would see you as my friend, that I may remember you are part of me and come to know myself, which helps me to see myself in everyone, even the people that I think I don't like. So finally, I just want to say that the biggest thing for me, and that I invite you to think about, is what do you want truly in any given circumstance? Just consider, what do you really want in any given circumstance? And just surrender that to that divine energy, that higher power, because that higher power wants what you want. Thank you.
Wow, Adrianne, that was so powerful. Gosh. And I've actually purchased that book, A Course in Miracles, and gotten through the first couple of pages. And one thing that has really impacted me is that the acknowledgement of miracles, big and small, right? It used to be that I thought a miracle would have to be something so fantastical, like the sky breaking open, but it can be something like, oh, this person asked me to be on their podcast, or or I found my favorite leather jacket in the closet after I've been looking for it for 2 weeks. Just those small things. And then also to remember to be appreciative and how I'm looking and perhaps judging other people when I don't even mean to. So that message is so powerful. Did anyone have any questions for Adrianne?
I have a question.
Sure.
So what I have, my question is more like what your thoughts or advice would be. Well, I think what I am trying to do is just be more sensitive to know when God is speaking to me. And I feel like, it's a work in progress, but I want to get to a point where when I don't hear from God, or I hear another voice, that I can discern and differentiate God's voice, so that the calling that I'm hearing to do something or to act on something is in fact from God. So just wondering like what your thoughts would be.
Yes, I definitely understand that. I've been through that process too. And I think that what it is when it's a knowing, when it's what God wants you to do, you know it because you want to do it too. It's not like God wants me to do this and I don't want to do this. Like you feel this is what I'm supposed to do. Not I think this is what I'm supposed to do. When you're still in that space, or when I'm still in that space of, I think this is what I'm supposed to do, I'm still processing. That's the way that I take it for myself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get to that point of, I know this is what God's telling me to do.
Yeah, because there's sometimes that I think we know that we just know something. Our instincts will tell us something. And that, for me, in my mind, that is God, that I have to do this, or I just know this. To me, that is God. When I say that, when I think that, I just know this. But also, you mentioned hearing God. For me, when I mentioned tools that resonate, for me, it might be listening to some meditative music or something that might keep me or place me in a meditation or a communication with God. Because the more, it's a matter of practice, just like we go to the gym, it's a matter of practice and repetition that we start hearing and feeling that connection. That's the way that I've found it to be.
True. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrianne. Was there another question? Yvette, did you have a question? You're on mute.
Yeah, I was trying to unmute myself. First of all, Adrianne, thank you. Tanya, I thought your question was just for myself, so profound. It's something that we're actually working on in my church and something that I'm constantly thinking about, and something that, Adrianne, I feel like this is similar to what you're saying too. Like, it's like when you get to that place where you feel that sense of peace, then you know. But along the path, I began to really think about something that was said. My pastor had said, and he was talking about, he said, you women know, like you get that sixth sense voice. So we all have that voice that tells us to avoid. And he said, that's not, maybe what that is God. And so maybe it's not just, this is for me, but when you feel that thing that makes you uncomfortable, that is really God saying, move in a different direction or take pause. And Tanya, I don't know if that helps you, but it is certainly helping me because I've discovered that I want what I want. And I'm kind of an A-type personality. So I will fight to have what I want, sometimes past the point when I'm being valued in situations. So now I'm learning to listen to that sixth sense and also seeing some of the signs. When it's for you, it will come together.
That was good. Thanks for sharing, Yvette.
Yeah, and thank you, Adrianne, for the message.
Thank you. Thank you. And if I could share one more thing, Camille.
Sure.
This path has helped me in terms of being honest with myself because it encourages and urges the reader to share everything with God. You know, the worst thing or the doubts, you know, self-doubts, everything. And in me being willing to do that, it has helped me to be honest with myself about what I'm feeling. So if I'm in a space with a group of people and I'm feeling awkward or insecure, for example, well, I'm willing to be honest with myself about what I'm feeling. Or if someone says something to me and it rubs me the wrong way, I'm willing to be honest with myself about how that makes me feel. And me doing that, it helps me to move through it. So I just wanted to say that's been very important to me as a result of this experience.
Thank you so much for sharing. Can you put the information for your podcast in the chat too?
Sure.
Just in case people want to, follow you and learn more.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. For my next speaker, I have Jyoti Rekhi. And as I said earlier, it's Mother's Day in the UK. And we want to make sure we wish her happy Mother's Day. Jyoti, are you there?
I am. Thank you, Dr. Camille. Thank you so much for the wishes. Hey, everyone. I'm Joy4 Rekhi. My stories make me the woman that I am today. You know, it blows me away when I see how my life's changed, coming from finance background to working in the corporate world, owning multiple businesses. And now being a holistic practitioner, a Reiki master teacher, and spiritual life coach. On top of that, a transformational speaker. Here I am now in the holistic business where I'm a Reiki master, a spiritual life coach, transformational speaker, as well as a podcaster. I look back at my life story and realize that it's a story of love. As a child, I grew up being told that children are seen and not heard. Can anybody relate to that? Those were the house rules. And then when I grew up, I knew I was going to have an arranged marriage, but I was okay with that. I was so excited that finally I will have freedom. 2 months later, I was married and in this new family home in a new town. These people were even more traditional. I could go to work wearing these Western outfit, but once I got home, I had to wear Indian clothes and cover my head. I wanted to please everybody, so I just went along with the new rules. I would love cooking. After work, I'll come home, get changed, get in the kitchen and cook for everyone. One day, as I was cooking, I could feel somebody just come up behind me and grab hold of me. And I sort of pushed this person away to see that it was my father-in-law. He just walked away, smirking. What just happened? Maybe he thought I was the mother-in-law. A couple of days later, the same thing happened. And this time, as I pushed him away, I realized that this was intentional. He hadn't confused me with her because she was 4'10" and I was 5'7". I was really confused. I was so young. Next day, I asked my husband to come and pick me up from the train station. And I was just thinking, how am I going to tell him about his dad? And while I stood there, a car pulls up to find that my father-in-law had come to pick me up. I was really scared getting in the car, but I got in, put my seatbelt on, grabbed hold of my bag close to me, and he was just making general chit-chat and started driving towards home. But before we reached home, he took a turn left and just parked up on the side. And he started to touch me inappropriately. I pushed his hand away. From somewhere, I found this courage to just say, no, just take me straight home. Otherwise, I'm getting out the car. I just sat there with my bag right close to me, and he drove home. And as we were about to enter the door, he said, if you ever tell anybody about this, I will ruin your life. That night, when I entered the house, I was so scared. I went to bed, locked the door from inside. I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know who I would talk to. What would my family say? I stayed there, literally existing, tiptoeing around. I was there for months, tired, hungry, exhausted, threatened, abused by the very family who was supposed to love me and take care of me. They denied me food with them. Imagine living in a house full of 3 generations, not to be seen, not to be heard. My head was just full of questions. Why would they treat me this way? Why wouldn't they allow me food with them? People even feed strays out there. Am I not worthy enough? Why don't I deserve love? I looked at me and I had lost so much weight, you could literally count all my ribs. My bones were jutting out. Aad Gurename, Jugad Gurename, Sat Gurename, Siri Gurdevaname. I kept on chanting this protection mantra again and again. It gave me strength. It connected me to a part of me, that God divine, the universe that's all within me. But that day in March 1992, something made me fully receive and embody the power of this mantra. With the knowing that the good little girl in me wasn't serving me anymore. And in that moment, I felt this power of a tigress rising within. That voice, that belief, that faith made me pick up the phone to my dad. It made me roar to say no to all that darkness, no to feeling unworthy. It made me roar and say yes, yes to choosing life once again. That day when I went home, knocked on the door to find the whole of my family had come with open arms, love in their eyes to come and collect me. That day, I went home to me. I went home to my family with my inner journey ignited. Journey of self-love. Journey of forgiveness. Journey of healing relationships. Journey of healing my heart. As I went home, my family was there to support me. I went into a cocoon. I was just making sense of all that had happened. I was only 25, hadn't even been married a year, and all this had happened. I'd gone into depression. You know, the question that kept on coming up, why me? Who is going to want me now? What happens with me now? Does that mean I'm going to be a burden on my family now? I kept on hearing this voice. Don't worry, I've got you. Don't worry, I've got you. Don't worry, I have got you. I had that faith. As I continued doing the inner work, I was shedding layers. And I had actually started to put myself together again, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And as I let go and surrendered, there was new me emerging. I got myself a new job where I knew that I'd have to get up in the morning and dress up smartly because I was going to face my clients every single day. And one day, this guy walks in. He'd been recommended through a friend, and he'd come to buy life insurance as he'd just started his new job. As I was filling out the forms, getting his details, he was asking me questions about me. And I thought, wait till I tell you. I've already been married and going through a divorce. You're going to run a mile. But you know, this guy just sat there and listened. And he said to me, let's fill out this form next time when we meet. And on our next meeting, he said to me, I'm going to marry you. What? Hang on. I'm already married. I'm going through a divorce. You're 4 years younger to me. You've never been married. It's unheard of in my culture. And he said, look, I'm going to come and speak to your dad. I thought, okay. Ruby came to see my dad. And my dad's first thing was, hang on, why do you want to marry my daughter? You're 4 years younger to her. You've never been married before. What does your family think about this? And he said, I'm not like a typical Asian man. I want to give Jyoti all the love and happiness that she deserves. And this year, Ruby and I will be completing 30 years of marriage in July. We're blessed with 2 beautiful children, son who's 26 and daughter who'll be 23 next month, and 3 angel babies. In my mess, I found my message, found my mission. In my pain, I found my purpose, my passion. And as I let go of the cape I was wearing as being a victim, I found my voice, I found my vision. So now I help others in their butterfly season. It is my mission to share the power of self-healing. It is my passion to share the power of self-love and forgiveness. It is my vision to help manifest a life of your dreams. You know, looking back, God's blessings were always there. At times I didn't see it. But I never gave up on him. And he never gave up on me. I'm Joy4Journey, living my purpose.
Beautiful.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity, Dr. Camille.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much, Jyoti. Gosh, that is such an emotional story. Thank you for sharing. I really appreciate it. Did anyone have any questions for Jyoti?
Jyoti, thank you. So it's a very moving testimony. You were young, you were in a culture whose traditions and cultural values really had you, I don't want to use the word confined, but there were traditional roles and expectations, and you're saying that to us. To entertain your husband of 30 years now was very different than having entertained that when he first said it to you. What do you think was within you that could allow you to even entertain this, very untraditional, unexpected?
Yes.
Offering?
Like Ruby said, he isn't a typical Asian man. He's of the same faith as me. But I guess he grew up here in this country, in the UK. He was born and bred here. Whereas my ex-husband was from back home and very traditional in his ways.
Thank you for that. I think I'm asking more, though, what was within you that allowed you, yes,
right,
that
right.
part of your journey, you're in a
Yes.
healing mode. And it feels to me like there's a blessing there that you could even hear that. Like
Yes.
some part of you was still valuing you.
Oh, definitely, definitely. It means, it was so difficult. It was so difficult to actually even say yes to Ruby all those years ago. It was very difficult because I had been scorned so badly before that I was literally treading the water really carefully. I wanted to meet the family. I met Ruby's mum. I met Ruby's family beforehand to know what they were like. Whereas in the first instance, I had never had that opportunity. They came to see me as like, the prospective bride to be. They came to see me. And 2 months later, I was married. The first time I met the guy was the day he came to see me. The second time I met him was the day I actually got married. Didn't speak to him because everything was very much like, you're not supposed to be seeing anyone until you get married. And with Ruby, it was a very slow process, meeting him, getting to know him before even saying yes. But it wasn't easy. It really wasn't. And at times I feel that because I still had my barrier up. Because when he said to me, "Oh, I love you, want to marry you," I was like, nah, like what's going on here? Right? It was like that. I had my barriers up, but I had to work on that to actually let my barriers down, to be open once again, to love again.
Thank you. Such a beautiful story. Gosh. Does anyone else have any questions for Jyoti? All right. I appreciate you sharing your story, and I know your family's there. We spoke with your sister earlier. You guys are having a big dinner, right? So I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
So we had one more speaker, Mahan Kaur, and unfortunately, she won't be able to join us today, but she was gracious enough to create a video for us, and I'm very thankful for modern technology. I love Mahan, and I'm going to share with everyone her video.
Thank you for having me today, and hopefully reminding you that you can lift yourself up and bring your focus to joy. I'm Mahan Kaur, KYI certified meditation guide for over 24 years, an artist and an author. I have written the book Little Miss Peep in the Land of Giant Feet, a beautiful little children's story available on Amazon and Audible. I am also so honored to be a holistic lifestyle coach, guiding people to be their most beautiful self.